What's up, everybody? Hello and welcome to episode number 272 of the VK Bros with Jason and Alex Von Cannell. Alex, how are you going this week?
I think very much like you. I've had a monster week, but probably not in a good way. Like I haven't really achieved the things I'm supposed to achieve this week. I've been very slow on the sales front.
Mm-hmm.
However, I've had some synergies happen, like literally in the last couple of days.
Right.
And I think you've accused me of this before on air, where like I may be a little too poetic sometimes. Like I let signals in the universe help guide me into things, and
I don't think it's a little bit too poetic. I just think that you pick and choose which signals to get poetic about.
Well, I think that sometimes probably the ones I get wrong are the ones I'm not listening to properly.
Right, like when you get sent a video of a UFO and it's just the moon, like that? That sort of signal?
Yeah, I wanted to believe that.
Picking and choosing.
That. If we get a green screen, I want that poster that I want to believe right here. But no, like, so on my little side project, there is a particular team member that is probably not as dedicated as the rest, and it's probably not the right fit.
Right.
Anyway, some of this sort of stuff came to a head in a meeting that we'd had. But what I found interesting is that out of that, as soon as basically that decision was made, a stack of other options have like literally just fallen on my lap.
Right. Yeah.
So what's weird? So okay. So here's the poetic part. I have a couple of little shrubberies in my bedroom, and I think they're called Chinese money trees. I think.
Is that racist?
One of them. That's only if you do the accent, but only if you do the accent poorly. One of them's not doing too well, and it was funny because this morning I took a photo of it, plugged it into ChatGPT, and said like, "Hey, what's the deal?" And basically, I need to repot it, and it's trying to get sun. It's not getting enough sun, and I said, "Oh, but there's a lot of new growth that's coming through. So if there's a long stem that's trying to make its way to the light, but there's actually all this additional growth. So I could probably prune that part off."
Yeah, encourage the new growth. Yeah.
Which seems like where the business is at.
Interesting.
So to me, it feels like we're cutting off an arm that is not performing, that's desperate for resources that just aren't there.
Yep.
And I'm going to replace it with a far more fruitful, energetic, new direction. And it's all happened in the same day.
Yeah, I do accuse you of being a bit gay about this sort of stuff from time to time, but I do believe in it a lot, and it is just that whole thing of like where focus goes, energy flows, that concept we talk about all the time. And we used to talk about this in the car industry of like you would be driving along every day, not noticing anything, and then you will buy a brand new red car, and then all of a sudden you start seeing that car everywhere because your mind is just focused on that car. And I think what you're talking about right now is something, it's actually interesting because it synchronizes with a lot of the conversations I've been having during the week. And a common theme of these conversations is it usually comes down to a team member not lifting their weight, not doing the job, and not just not even doing the basics of the job. And then when those inadequacies are brought to their attention, their response to it is emotional hurt, outrage, and so the person who is literally trying to say, hey, you're not doing your job properly, ends up feeling like they're walking on eggshells because like, oh, if I address it with them, like they'll get really upset. It's like the whole the balance has shifted way too far in the wrong way. And to me, one of the things which frustrates me about this, because this is everywhere in our current society, is the fact that that person who is not doing the job correctly is probably involved in a project which isn't particularly right for them. And so in other words, for them, This current project is a placeholder which is actually taking up the place of the thing that they're probably meant to be doing. At the same time, that person who's not lifting their weight is probably a placeholder for the right person whose energy, skill set, drive would actually fit that role way better. But
is that like one of the tenets of the movie Moneyball? Like when they're trying to fire these players,
right?
And it's when they're justifying, it's because of blah blah blah. It always works out really really bad. But when you say you're out, this person's in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
There is. I felt that like I've been in the position where I've had to fire some people in the past, and like because I've managed people for a lot of my career, and it was very hard to start with, and then that was literally my go-to is like, not only are we not happy with you, but you're not happy with us.
That's right. So you're both not doing what you want to do.
And yeah, I don't think you're a bad person. I just think this is not the right fit, and therefore, I'll help you get into the next thing, whatever the next job is. I'll be a great reference for you.
Yep.
But it just doesn't fit here.
Yeah, yeah. And
but I am a believer in that. But the tree thing I thought was interesting because I've got two, one at each bedside table, and one's doing really really well. It's funny, the one that's sort of on my side of the bed is doing really really well. The one on the other side of the bed is not doing very well.
Which side do you
side of the bed?
Well, which side do you sleep on?
Okay, so if I'm facing my bed, I sleep on the right-hand side.
Yeah, and
so if I'm laying on the bed, I'm on the left-hand side.
So you sleep on your left side?
No, I sleep I'm a face sleeper.
Oh.
But the left side of my face, yeah.
So, in other words, what I'm asking is, during the night when you're breathing out, are you breathing towards the plant that's doing really well?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're breathing CO2 towards the plant. You're feeding the plant during the night.
I'm breathing success.
Yeah, and then you're farting on the other one, and that's why the other one's dying.
Yeah. So I thought that was interesting, and like, and even more poetic is like people that were pushed out of the project years ago might be linking back in now as part of this like completely unrelated, but it's just all timed into one moment. It's really I don't know. I like to enjoy those little synergies, I guess.
Yep.
And I feel like when you said where your focus goes, energy flows, I also think too like moving with the flow of nature. I think too, as opposed to riling against it. I find people that are depressed or struggling with life are trying really, really hard to force things in their lives to go a particular way. And it just hasn't worked for me. Like, for me, the more in tune I have become with my surroundings, the more I've let it flow into, like, sometimes I've been wrong about stuff. And instead of being offended by being wrong, I'm like, oh no, that's the lesson.
Yeah.
I've been told this for a reason, and I've changed to that thing, and then it just works.
This is an opportunity for growth instead of seeing it as a negative. It's a way of turning a negative into a positive.
I'm happy I got it wrong when I did, because I could have made it worse. But if I just keep trying to force a square peg into a round hole, trying to force it, why isn't this fitting? Whereas like, I need to go find the right piece.
Yeah.
Or I need to go find the right hole.
Yeah.
Right? And it's interesting because there are some people in my circle at the moment that aren't doing too good, but a lot of their mindset is around diversion, like diverting their attention away from the bad things and trying to busy themselves with other things, and I'm like, well, maybe there is a message that you're just not choosing to listen to.
Yeah.
Which is like the world, your body, your mind is trying to tell you something. How about you just sit in it for a bit and listen?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and then
how often?
Yeah, I know it sounds a bit woo-woo-y, but I'm becoming. It's funny. It's funny because I used to see myself as a really this scientific guy, and I wasn't religious, but the more you look at both of those things, the more you realize they're both as ridiculous and as important as each other.
Totally. Absolutely. It's like, I can't remember who said it, but there was some famous scientist who was like, asked whether or not he's an atheist. And he's like, when when you're a scientifically minded person, you study the ways of the universe. And like when you go into science, you don't understand how the universe works. And then as you are peering into the bottom, like the deepest, darkest depths of the universe, the only thing that's staring back at you is God. So like it's funny, I was having a conversation like this during the week. Like I don't consider myself a religious person, but the number one thing that I know I'm definitely not is I'm not a non-believer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know what it is, but I definitely don't think that it doesn't exist. And I think that that's like the step one towards, I guess, having a happy, successful life is knowing when to be humble about things.
Yeah.
And things that, like, because like I was talking to like that friend of mine yesterday about this, and like I literally said to him, like, imagine how arrogant it would be to pretend I knew one way or the other. Like with that sort of question, how arrogant do you need to be to go, it is definitely this?
Have you been following Piers Morgan and his like view on this?
Oh, not really. I like a lot of Piers content. I mean, you have to be in the right mindset to enjoy it. If you've had a very stressful week, it's not the greatest
He's got one that annoys
content.
me. So he's a Christian, and he's like, God has to exist because no one can explain the like infinity to me. Infinity makes no sense.
Yeah.
It's like, and I'm like, what it does to me it just doesn't to you.
Yeah, it's like just because you don't understand something doesn't mean that.
Yeah, so like, and the dumbest car dealer way to explain it is infinity is like, you know what lots is, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's like an unlimited amount of lots.
Yeah, I'd say that falls in the realm of correlation does not equal causation.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. But he was talking to this like really interesting scientist that's got this theory like about whether we're in a simulation or not. And he's like, well, explain infinity to me. And the guy's like, well, look, it's brought some interesting points, and there's actually like different versions of infinity. Yeah, but you can't explain it to me. So like that's why it's like, well, you know.
Oftentimes, Piers knows what he's doing for content.
I mean, the fact that I can show you an infinity symbol, which if you were to draw it, essentially goes on forever, is kind of proof in the. Do you know what I mean? Like it shouldn't be that crazy a concept.
Yeah. Have we spoken about simulation theory on the show recently, or have I just been talking to my friends about it?
I am surprised that you talk to your friends about it because I didn't think that's really your wheelhouse.
So I believe we're in a simulation, but not in the way that people think about simulation theory. So I think the traditional theory on simulation theory is that we're essentially all in a matrix, so to speak, of like a computer system, like this planet is The Sims. And The Sims, it's just a game of The Sims, and when this game shuts down, a new game starts, and the player does different things and makes different decisions, and etc. etc. I think about simulation theory in the form of the rise and fall of different human civilizations over hundreds of thousands of years. So I think that we are, like, you just have to watch human nature play out, right? And we've seen some extremely interesting examples of what human nature is really about over the last 5 years, and since we've been doing the show. You've seen what happened during COVID, you've seen what's happened with all of these wars, you've seen what's happened with, I mean, I would say something like gender ideology is a self-limiting ideology. So you can see how humankind goes through these various stages where they start out, we call it like the caveman days, and the one thing about human beings which is always in our DNA is that we will constantly innovate. And it's never enough. So when you create a tool, the next human being is going to try to improve upon that tool. And we call that progress. And we progress our technological expertise over time. So you go caveman days, and then, you go for like the Iron Ages and whatever. And you fast forward and you get to a point where we're at today. And look at the technological innovations that we have in our daily lives every single day. And then at some point, something big happens. And like, I think about if there was like a giant EMP blast from the sun that wipes out our entire electrical grid, The majority of human knowledge is located in the cloud right now. And that's gone, like that.
Yeah.
And then not only would that be gone, but like your ability to communicate and organize and everything that we rely upon so heavily today, that all goes too. So if that happened, it would be realistic to think that you would have mass human suffering immediately, and over a very short period of time, there'd be a lot of death, there would be a lot of disease because you can't get medicines anymore, and the 8 billion people that are currently living on this planet might shrink down to an extremely small number that is completely isolated from the rest of the world. And then the next simulation begins. And so like I think about this in regards to things like the pyramids. I believe the pyramids were an ancient technology. I don't know what it was used for. It could be energy generation or whatever. It could have been something completely foreign to us we don't understand. And I think that an iteration, a simulation of human beings created those using technology we no longer understand to do something that we no longer understand. And then when their cataclysmic event happened and they died out, the knowledge was lost with them. And now we just look back at them as these artifacts that we don't know about, we don't understand, because this simulation of human beings, we innovated, but it's always different every time. So every time we start again,
like for example, if someone else came back to our civilization and he handed them a USB drive, a thumb drive, they wouldn't know what to do with it.
Exactly right. Exactly, like they would have no clue at all. So that's my view on simulation theory, and I
have a slightly different.
Okay.
So I believe there's a simulation too. It's similar. It's kind of similar to what you're saying, but when I'm thinking about progress, I think certain powerful forces are learning the way human psyches work, and I think their technologies have become, how do we manufacture the world that we want. So we know this from a sales point of view. There's techniques that you can use to manipulate a potential situation to get a desired result. And it's funny that we spoke about this, synergies, because the clip that I had to show talks about one of these facets.
Cool.
So what I think is over time is, and as we're really becoming more centralized, we would have started very decentralized as a culture. You know, people scattered all over the world, small tribes, and then as cities are getting bigger and the populace is getting bigger, we're opting into more centralized controls, having governments set up. Arguably, if you ask me, I reckon we're getting too centralized. We need to decentralize a little bit more to find a happy medium. Now, I'm about to Streisand affect myself when I bring this clip up, because the title of the clip, so it's from the show A Diary of a CEO, which I do like his channel. The title, I didn't seek this one out, but I did listen to the whole thing. The real reason life is brutal for men after 30. And the reason why I watched it is because I don't feel this way. I only had this conversation today. I'm nearly 40, and I'm in the best shape I've ever been. Mentally, I'm stronger than I've ever been. Financially, I'm stronger than I've ever been. I don't want to be 20 again. I'd rather be 40.
Right? I totally agree with you, but at the same time, I look around and I see a lot of men the same age as us who maybe are not doing so well.
Well, this clip doesn't really have a lot to do with the men thing, but definitely has something to do with what we were just saying. So I wanted to share this
thing that you hear once. It's called the illusory truth effect. There's so many studies showing this. You tell people something twice, they don't remember that they've heard it twice, and they're going to believe it way more than something that they just heard once. The reason for this is that the brain processes information that it's heard before less, right? Okay, so let's say I tell you that a shrimp's heart is in its head, right? So when you hear that sounds really surprising, and your brain takes a lot of resources to process this. You might think about the last time I ate a shrimp, right? Or just imagine the shrimp's heart is in his head. But the second time I'm going to tell you this, a shrimp's heart is in his head, your brain's not going to process this as much, right? And the third time, it's not going to process it at all. Now, when your brain takes less effort in processing things, that causes a signal of familiarity. And as a result, we're more likely to believe something. When something requires less effort and less energy to process, we believe it more.
Now, where have you
Sometimes there's
heard?
just enough.
Where have you heard? Well, where have you seen that technique being
Safe
used,
and
though?
effective. Safe and effective. Safe and
Safe and
effective. Yeah, yeah. It's a neural shortcut, and the powers that be tapped into our neurochemistry and understand this. I mean, this has been the case with politics forever. Like, every single time you see a politician do a press conference, they will have a buzz term that they say multiple times throughout it, and the whole point is that effect. They know that when they say it the first time, you're not necessarily going to believe it at all. Like the best example of this recently is there was the press conference from Victoria this week with Jacinta Allen talking about how safe the CBD is, and she said it 12 times in that one press conference. It was only a few minutes long. Meanwhile, did you see that the stabbing? So you know that happened like 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
And I
didn't know it was 2 weeks ago.
So it happened 2 weeks ago. So here's the play-by-play. That stabbing, which for any of you who haven't seen it, it was literally just a lady walking to work, and a woman runs up behind her, gets in her face, just stabs her for no reason and runs off. So that happened 2 weeks ago. Meanwhile, that only came out because 7 News got the footage and leaked it this week. So the government didn't tell anyone about it. But the same, like a day before the footage was leaked by Channel 7, Jacinta Allen's doing the CBD is safe and effective. The CBD is safe and effective. The CBD is safe and effective in a news conference. So it's just neurolinguistic programming. And
it's not just linguistics, but think about, and we've said this on the show before, but notice a politician's tie colour.
Yeah.
When they want to, so if they want to show strength, they'll have a red or dark tie.
Yep.
If they want to be kind and give you something, it'll be blue and light.
Or
right? So they think about that from top to bottom, the words that they say. So that's my version of what I think a simulation is.
Yeah.
Is they've created a world that doesn't exist.
Yeah, I see.
Based on the tricks and tools, the programming, right, to get us to feel a particular way. And I remember calling out people on that safe and effective thing. And I literally said to a guy, just because you say it a bunch doesn't make it true.
Yeah, of course.
Right, you can say it all, like, I'm showing you, like, the stops transmission we knew after day one in Sydney, right?
Yeah.
The gym in Sydney, vaccinated only.
Freedom Day.
Day one, COVID, right?
Yep.
They got COVID. And people are still like, well, it blocks transmission. I'm like, but here's evidence where it doesn't.
Yep.
So you've gone from hearing something a bunch of times, you believe that, here's the evidence to the contrary, and you've gotten that out of your mind because, like she said, you've just heard it a bunch of times.
Totally. And getting back to your simulation theory, you got to remember that at that time, like, we got I think it was our first strike on YouTube for saying that the vaccine doesn't stop transmission because the data clearly showed that the vaccine didn't stop transmission. So this gets back to what you're saying about them curating a world for you in which you can hear the things they want you to hear and think are real, and you cannot hear the things that they don't want you to think are real.
Even like I was having a conversation with a friend of mine about the whole Charlie Kirk thing.
Yeah.
And she had said, he'd said some really nasty things. I'm like, can you show me the stuff? And what she showed me were not videos of him speaking.
Yeah, it was quotes.
It was quotes.
Taken out of context.
And I was like, wow, that's really interesting. Because here's, like, some of them, I know what that clip was from. Here's the clip. Watch the clip. We watched the clip. She's like, oh, that's completely different.
Which, to me...
It's the same event portrayed in a different way.
Yeah.
And to give off completely different programs within the simulation.
For sure. And to me, this is the thing that... Well, it does. This is the thing that scares me the most about AI. Because AI's been in the news a lot recently for the fact that the vast majority of these AI companies aren't making any money. So they're raising trillions of dollars in funding to fund these projects, which then are used by Jason Von Cannell and the VK Bros to create funny thumbnails for our show for free.
I always think about that, like, every one of your thumbnails has probably cost an investor 10 grand.
Yeah, and has contributed to climate change because of the amount of energy that it takes. But here's the thing, though. I believe the vast majority of this money is coming from governments, because the great awakening of people in society, which is happening right now, like that Casey Means tweet that I spoke about on the show last week, about how he was saying that he'd spoken to all of this guy who runs these medical doctors, and all these doctors are saying that their number one gripe is that all of their, like 80% of their patients are now asking about what is the root cause of my problem and what are there any natural remedies, right? So that's part of this great human awakening that we are experiencing right now. And I think that the podcast is one of the vehicles that has really brought this on. Like, social media obviously is a big one, especially with Elon buying Twitter. That was a big thing too. But podcasting, long form discussions, I think, has been one of the most easily consumable ways to get content that's not completely taken out of context, and to grill some of this messaging that has been spread by the powers that be. And like you were saying before about you needing to be able to see the video for yourself, I believe that all these AI companies being propped up by government funding, because the governments want the AI to be so good that they can create whatever video content they need to sell their messaging.
Yeah, it's something I think about a lot, which is, what's that quote? Believe nothing of what you hear and half of what you see.
Yeah.
We're going to have to move to believe nothing that you hear and
Nothing
of what you see, unless you saw it in real life. And I guess, we've spoken about how our technique is to, like, go and touch grass.
Yeah.
You could be caught up in these things and all these crazy things are happening around the world. And yes, it's probably not human, or it's probably not healthy for the human brain or human development to be bombarded algorithmically with horrific events from all over the world. It's probably a big burden to take. We'll go out and stand, put your feet in the grass, look at the jacaranda trees blooming, look at my Chinese money plant, go and watch the birds live their lives, and not magpies, and minor birds, pricks, but all the other majestic, creatures. I think in many ways, that awakening could still happen in a far more profound way when people stop buying into it.
Yeah, you must stay tethered to reality.
Yeah, that's the best way to put it. And the AI slop that's going to hit, and I've fallen for it. I've fallen for stuff, and I literally try to. I don't know. Did you see I think it was Flagrant podcast where they asked Schultz? Schultz was like, I flick past every AI video, and I felt the same too. I don't like the AI videos because to me it was like easy humor, like it was low effort.
Yep.
And then they showed him a clip, and he just started laughing, because people are going to get better at making fun of AI. It is getting better
and better, and that's the problem. Yeah. Like, do you know? I'm sure you're the same. How many reels do you get sent from friends of yours of, like, the latest one that I've seen a lot of is
the whale being born?
Well, there's that one, but no, the latest one I've seen is of, like, people with dash cams getting into accidents with animals, and the animal ends up inside the car. And it's like this crazy video. It's like, it's AI, but they're getting better. And like there was one of like a bear, or I think a deer jumps through a window while someone's on the toilet, and like there's like a bear chasing it, and it looks almost real until you realise the guy's sitting there doing a shit with his underwear on. So, like, but this is the problem that I have.
That's
it's getting so close now.
Yeah.
So
they're going to use what you just said just now. AI is going to use to fix that video to make sure he's not wearing underwear.
Absolutely. And here's the concerning thing: is it's like, how will you ever understand what is real in the future?
Well, okay, so that's where the tethering reality, that's the touch grassing. And I mean in a literal sense.
And that's my number one gripe with the transgender agenda, right?
How so?
I believe, and you've just got to look at the fact that transgenderism is being pushed on kids by leftist governments, and leftist governments are the governments of authority and control. They want to take control of everyone. And they know, so think about it this way. If you can, like, I've got 2 kids. My 2 kids know, inherently, what a boy is, what a girl is. I had to teach them the words, never had to teach them what the words meant. They just know, that's a boy, that's a girl. So like you look at the Victorian government. Victorian government has just changed the school curriculum so that they'll be teaching 5-year-old children that sometimes your bits just don't actually align with, like, you know, you've been born into the wrong body. 5-year-old kids. So I believe this is a control mechanism to untether the next generation from reality. If you can't even believe your own eyes that is a woman and that is a man, you're not going to give a fuck about crime statistics or...
And it's the state removing the authority of the parents. So now the parents are going to say this, but they're wrong. Listen to us. We say
Well, that was another story from this week as well, where apparently there are laws that have been put in place down in Victoria that teachers can start socially transitioning minors without parental consent if
made it to Queensland.
If the child tells them not to tell the parents.
Yep, that was in Queensland too. We'd covered this. I think it's now gone.
Yeah,
but that was in the state schooling system here in Australia.
Yeah, so you got to ask yourself, guys, what is the benefit to children of doing this? There is none. There is no benefit. Like, if you want to have happy, well-rounded adults, don't give them mental illness when they're 5 years old. How about that?
Yeah, how come a 13-year-old girl can get on testosterone, but a 39-year-old guy can't?
And how come a 13-year-old girl can get on testosterone, but she's not going to be able to access social media? Because apparently social media might be dangerous for her. It might teach her dangerous ideas, Alex.
Well, okay, I want to ask you about this. It looks like there's been a backflip by the Labor government about the superannuation, the unrealised gains tax. And to what they flicked it to, almost is completely palatable in my view. Mm-hmm. So, for the uninitiated, Labor government had said, we're going to do an unrealised capital gains tax on superannuation balances over $3 million. Mm-hmm. So essentially anyone that had $3 million or more in their super was going to get paid, was going to have to pay tax on the gain that they had for the year, whether they had sold and cashed out that gain or not, which is nuts. The other massive gripe that we had was, that we spoke about on the show, they were not indexing that $3 million, which means, and we worked out the calculations, in 30 years' time, because of the devaluation of money and because of the, knowing that they will increase the percentage required to go of your salary that goes into superannuation, that essentially every low income earner in 30 years' time was going to have $3 million and therefore be subjected to this tax.
Yep.
So, our modelling showed it. Everyone else's modelling showed it. We know that Labor's not that dumb. We know that they knew it.
Yep.
That's probably why they made it in the first place. And then they've since backflipped on it, and now they've indexed it. They've upped it from $3 to $4 million, and then they've created another tax from $10 million up.
Yep. And they're no longer doing the unrealised gains, just to be clear on that.
And they're not doing unrealised gains.
Yep.
Now, I wanted to ask you, is that a good thing in that all the lobbying that we did, all the petitions that we signed, all the screaming that we did on social media helped? Or is it a negotiating tactic? Is it like the equivalent of Trump saying, we're going to put a 500% tariff on your thing? Argue. Oh, we'll do this thing, which was the plan all along. They're still getting more taxation, but they got to fly it through because it was a much easier sell than what they originally sold.
So, I'm going to sound really biased here, because I hate this Labor government. And just to have the caveat, I hate the federal libs too. Suzanne Ley sucks. She's Labor light. They literally didn't let Andrew Hastie do his job, so he resigned. They're a shambles. So you don't have a proper opposition in Parliament at the moment anyway. But
what have they opposed?
Nothing. They don't oppose anything. They pretend they do, and then they just vote alongside them normally. So here's the thing, though. This is my opinion on how the Labor government runs the government. I believe, I really do believe, that this government cares far more about its own power and control than correct governance. I believe that the decisions they make are based around their own political survival rather than trying to do the right thing by the country. And let me flesh this out. So, the first point I'll make about this backflip on the unrealised gains tax, you have to go back to the way that the Labor government tried to market that tax in the first place. They thought it would be popular to young kids to say, we're taxing the rich. We're taxing the rich and we're giving it to you. So to them, it was a marketing tool. It was definitely not the right thing to do. And as you said, the figures showed that those kids they were marketing it to would end up being subject to this tax by the time they retired anyway. So they were going to end up paying more tax on this than the apparently rich people they are claimed to be targeting right now. So we know it was a marketing technique. So, two things on the backflip. Number one, it does show that these conversations and people power does matter. They are going to listen. But it's the way that we talk about it. You literally have to threaten these people's jobs. Hey, if they don't change this thing, we're voting them all out. Which is really how democracy's supposed to work anyway. But the problem that we've got is, like we're saying, there is an insipid opposition at the moment. So the threat is just not there for the Labor government for the most part, because there's no opposition. There's no viable opposition. So it shows you, though, that people power does work. And we say it on the show all the time. Vaccine mandates. The only reason why vaccine mandates are no longer in force is because enough people said no. And it's going to be the same, digital ID is going to be the same thing. Enough of you have to say no quickly enough, and that system will just go away. We saw it with the COVID passports. Like, enough people said no to scanning in everywhere, so that stuff went away. But it was never about doing the right thing about the citizen in the first place, was it? Like, none of those policies were. We know that. We know that the health advice didn't tell them to do the things they were doing, and they did them anyway. But then they took them away when they thought they were about to pay a political price for it. So, I unfortunately think that whilst this is a really good result for people, and look, I do think that the policy they've put forth is now relatively fair. If you've got over $10 million in your superannuation account, they'll increase your income tax from your the return on those investments to 40%, which is close to a high income tax earner just with a normal job, and it's only for the portion above the $10 million. So I think that's reasonable. Sorry, go ahead. Yep.
Well, the only reason I wouldn't is that the only thing I don't like about these changes is, like, you set the rules.
Yep.
The people play by your rules, and you're going to change the rules in your favour, not theirs. Yeah,
I totally agree. And we see this with everything in this country. Like, housing policy is a great example. I was watching a video from this economist I follow on YouTube during the week, and he was talking about, like, he literally played that clip of Claire O'Neill, who's the housing minister for Labor, who, when she was interviewed on the radio, saying that Labor's policies will not make housing prices go down. They do not want housing prices to go down. They want sustainable price growth over time. And the person said, well, can't you see how this is like stacking the deck against young people? She literally just says, well, it's not our government's policy that we want housing prices to go down. Now, this economist says, when Claire O'Neill and all of her other parliamentary friends were young people, the deck was actually stacked in their favour, because housing prices back then was only 4 times earnings. So you literally had to say 4 times earnings to own a house. Own a house back then. Now it's 4 times earnings to have your 20% deposit to buy a house. So again, it's this whole thing of like what worked for them in the past. They've taken the advantage for that, and now they're pulling the gate up behind them so no one else can be let in and take some of their ill-gotten gains back off them.
Oh yeah, because don't forget, the people that aren't subject to this new tax on superannuation are judges and politicians,
yep.
and So they all get this sweetheart deal.
Yep.
So I agree with you totally that there is... and another way you can tell that this is all pantomime for their own benefit is like what we keep saying, which is there's no talk about productivity.
That's right.
Like, this is where the failure's going to come. It must be bad because I got 2 phone calls in one day this week. The job figures came up, the unemployment's gone up in Australia. Now, just to picture how nuts that is, if you've got a government that's willing to essentially employ every man, woman and child in Australia, because over 50% of all the new jobs are...
It's more. It's now
Sorry.
more. So the latest figures out of Victoria that were also released this week, the Victorian government said that they created 78,000 jobs in the Victorian economy over the last 12 months. 70,000 of those from the public service. So 8,000 private sector jobs were created, net, and 70,000 government jobs were created.
Okay. And but there's more people becoming unemployed.
Mm-hmm.
Because the unemployment rate has gone up.
Yep.
So which part of the market is getting unemployed, Jason?
The private sector. The productive sector, we should call it.
Yeah. So the productive sector that makes all the stuff, all the services that add value to the Australian economy.
Pays all the tax.
Yes. Now, that government workers sit there going, I pay tax. Yeah. You pay... Let's just round the figures off. 30,000. You earn 100. You pay 30.
Yep.
Okay. Well, the guy next to you, he's on 100. He pays 30.
Yep.
You produce nothing.
Yep. And you're a $70,000 suck on the taxman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why, and that's taken. Whereas in the market sector, or at the productive sector, that person is only employed because they give more value than their cost.
Yep.
Therefore, so that person on $100,000 is also paying $30,000 in tax.
Yep.
However, they're probably bringing $150,000 worth of value to their employer.
Yep.
Who's also paying tax on it.
But also the private sector, the tax that the private sector pays goes into the government coffers. The income that a public sector worker takes comes out of the government coffers. So there is no public sector without a strong private sector to pay for it. So, but in this country, we're killing the private sector with regulations, and we're propping up jobs numbers, arbitrary jobs numbers, which again, this is another example of doing something because it benefits you politically rather than being the right thing to do by the country. But we are literally borrowing money to offer fake jobs to people so a number on a spreadsheet looks slightly better. And they still had a bad result with as far as unemployment goes.
And their only solution is to up taxes.
Yeah. Which will drive more people to the wall and make more wealthy people leave the country.
Yeah, so this is where I want to give... okay, so we should talk about Desi Freeman.
Yep.
Who's keeping his last name very pertinent. Desi Freeman, for those who can't remember, did he kill 1 or 2 police? 2,
and injured a third. And then apparently stole their guns and escaped, even though there were 7 other police there.
He's been on the run for...
Still never seen any body cam footage either, by the way.
Months now.
Mm-hmm.
And we said on this show... Isn't it interesting how they put 400 agents on the search, on the manhunt for Desi Freeman, and yet, like you said, you've just had a stabbing happen in the middle of the city.
Yeah.
News.com? Was it News.com that reported the cost for the... Because we asked this on the show, I hadn't heard about it for a while. I was like, I wonder if they've still got 400 staff on. They do. They've estimated the cost to the Victorian taxpayer is $100 million.
Yep, $1 million a day is what they think they're spending trying to find Desi Freeman.
Right, $100 million. Now, the police commissioner has come out and said, and this is refreshing, he wasn't talking about Desi Freeman, but he was talking about how the Victorian people have lost trust in the police force. Mm. And, I think back to all the essentially paramilitary units that were sent out to shoot up with rubber bullets
COVID protesters.
Victorian protesters.
Yep.
The craziest one is like when they're talking about the War Memorial. These protesters are desecrating the War Memorial when the only footage from the news was police marching on it, firing their rubber bullets
towards
at
the memorial. Yeah.
Okay?
And the point of the protesters was our ancestors fought and died for our freedoms that our own government is now removing from us. That was why they were at the War Memorial in the first place, and the response from the government was to shoot at them and the memorial itself.
And what is incredibly hilarious to me is if you think about why they're not supposed to be outside is because you might catch COVID.
Yeah, that's right.
So I'll shoot you with a rubber bullet.
Yeah, for your own safety. For your own safety.
For your own safety, take this in your face, dog.
I hope you're wearing a mask.
Yeah. So, but the one thing that he said, and this is the first time I've heard anyone in power say the right thing.
Yeah.
Which is, we're going to restructure the organisation by cutting, first time I've heard it, cutting high-level managerial staff.
Yep. I think my camera's just frozen. Has it frozen on your end as well?
Yes, it has.
You're mad.
But it looks like it's going to come back. It's actually paused in a great spot.
Yeah. I'm in quiet contemplation of your points.
So he said we need more frontline staff, and I know it's been very hard to get police. I think they still have the vaccine mandates for Victoria, don't they? They have it for...
I know that. No, it's for the firefighters. They still got it because that makes the most sense. It's just the fireys though.
Yeah, so the people that run into burning houses should get vaccinated because it's too dangerous.
Well, when they're dragging your unconscious body out of a flaming building, what if they cough on you and give you COVID, Alex?
Yeah. So, but it also gave me a different feeling. I did text it to you, so I know you've thought about it. I don't know if you saw it the same way I did. Before any big revolution, what tends to happen is the government goes buck wild in one direction.
Yeah.
Whether it be too authoritarian or they're too corrupt. And usually the next step is the military turns on the government.
Correct. And that's why you get military coups.
Yeah. Now, because we don't have state military, our military is federal, and the military hasn't really done anything. Okay, so our military aren't out and about doing things.
Well, don't forget though, they did use the federal military on the streets to enforce COVID lockdowns early on. I think it was New South Wales they used them.
That is true. So, a small part of me felt like, well, here's this commissioner that clearly is reading the tea leaves and going, we're not doing it right. And as much as I don't want to blame police, they were given orders, and in the military and in these organisations, that's what you're told to do.
Yeah.
So the orders came from above, go and enforce these things. However, it was so extreme that I wish more of them said, I'm not doing it because this is crazy.
It's exactly what we said last week about the politicians accepting lobbying money from big business. Like, you don't have to take the money and do what they want. You can tell them to go away. And we feel the exact same about these police officers. The majority of cops are great, but the problem was there were far too many of them that were compliant with just completely disgusting orders. And
I can tell you, I spoke to my friends that are police in Queensland during that time, and I asked them, what are you going to be doing about, people walking around? And he goes, look, we've been told, but I've told my team we're doing nothing. And unless you're being belligerent, unless you're spitting in people's mouths, we're not doing anything. And in Queensland, we're pretty... I mean,
that's pretty good.
Gold Coast definitely were, yeah. So,
Gold Coast is pretty loose.
So, I wonder, and I'd be interested, I'm going to put this little sort of predictor on the future. I wonder if we might see a very strange regime change in Victoria.
In what way?
I wonder if there's a snap election, or I wonder if this police commissioner takes more control over what happens. I wonder. I don't know.
You know, we'll...
And because think about this. You've got the links between... So we know Victoria's very corrupt, especially the deal Labor government with the CFMEU, with these government contracts.
Yeah.
Essentially, if you could break any link in that chain, and the only people that can break the link in that chain is the Victorian police, right?
Yep.
So if they do that, this could cripple this criminal cartel. And I'm saying the criminal cartel is the Labor government.
So where it gets interesting for me, though, because I think it's a really interesting concept. The Daniel Andrews angle to it can't be ignored. Because the reason why, like we spoke about on the show during COVID, Daniel Andrews has that state on lockdown. He had hand-selected guys to be the police commissioner. He hand-selected the guy to be the head of the fireys, and that was the guy who was pushing the mandates on his own staff. Like, he had that place on lock. And it's funny that you brought up Desi Freeman too, because there was the Desi Freeman angle as well, that just before the altercation happened where those police were shot, he was due to go to court against Dan Andrews because he sued Dan Andrews over the COVID lockdowns. So that's an element that hasn't been spoken about either. So my question is, this police commissioner now who's come out and taken a different tact, is he new? Do you know if he's new?
I don't know. I can try and find out.
See if you can find out. Because my question is, what dirt did Dan Andrews have on the last commissioner, which made that commissioner follow his orders so closely? Is there an element of corruption involved in removing Desi Freeman as a threat via his lawsuit? What are you looking at?
Okay, it's strange, right? The guy's name's Mike Bush.
Yeah.
He got the position 27th of June, 25.
Okay, so he is new. Who was the old one?
So, hold on. This is weird, though, because... here, I'll pull the screen up.
Get my mug off the screen.
Mike Bush, CNZM, is the current Chief Commissioner of the Victorian Police, having assumed the office 27 June 2025. He succeeded Shane Patton.
Yeah.
Chief Commissioner.
So Shane Patton, I believe there are some corruption allegations. This is allegedly, but Shane Patton and Dan Andrews were very close, and I believe that it was Dan Andrews actually appointed Shane Patton himself.
He was a New Zealand police commissioner.
Okay, yeah, so this is interesting. This is the guy who... Can you search him and search for something like his name and like sexual abuse or something like that? Because there was some scandal involving him in New Zealand. See if that comes up.
Roast Busters scandal? Handling sexual assault.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
he wasn't personally. He was. Yeah.
I think it was something to do with covering up child abuse cases in New Zealand.
Yeah, okay.
So he basically resigned because of that, and then all of a sudden gets picked up by the People's Republic of Victoria.
We need to kind of know more about him, don't we?
Yeah. So it's interesting because, like, again, for a start, going back to Desi Freeman, how have they not found him? And my fucking tinfoil hat brain goes, is this whole thing a psyop, even including that stabbing that we saw video footage of this week? Is this whole thing a psyop? Because remember, they apprehended the stabber within a day or so. So they've already got them. Great news, guys. We were able to apprehend them because we had CCTV camera footage of them as they stabbed this person. How good are cameras? And in that article that you sent through, don't forget, it talks about how they were spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on essentially setting up CCTV footage through bushland to try to see if they could find Desi Freeman. Is this whole thing that problem reaction solution where you make the crime so bad, you have Desi Freeman who does one of the like highest level crimes you can, which is killing police, to get all of everyone in Victoria to say, we don't feel safe, we want the state to take care of us. Whatever you need to do, we'll do. So let's put CCTV cameras absolutely everywhere so we can apprehend these criminals as quickly as possible. And we'll all submit to digital ID too with facial recognition, because then we'll be much like Desi Freeman will never be able to disappear again if we've got digital ID and CCTV cameras on every street corner.
Imagine getting the contract to putting the CCTV cameras on every fucking gum tree in the forest.
Yeah, well, if it's 13 million for a couple of machete bins, then imagine what that's going to be worth.
Yeah.
I still believe, too, that Desley Freewoman's currently doing drag queen story time being paid by the government, and he's hiding in plain sight.
Look, I mean, it is literally Rocky 1. Not Rocky, Rambo.
Yeah.
It's the same story.
Yeah.
And Rambo won that.
Yeah.
Right? So, it's not surprising to me that if you know the bush, it's very easy to, like, it doesn't matter how much manpower you throw at it, unless you're going to turn over every single leaf, and if you've done any cam and concealment before, and, sovereign citizens, that's probably all they're really looking at is that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
But it's funny, it kind of made me think, and this is a very gross way to look at it, so I understand that this is going to feel weird to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Desi Freeman kills 2 police on his property and injures one other for a couple bucks, and the Victorian police can't find him for $100 million.
Yeah.
Just like the Queensland police stops 2% of the illegal marijuana trade for $2 billion a year.
And this is
and the whole market is only worth $5 billion a year.
That's right, and this is the irony of the whole thing. I don't think Desi Freeman's in the state anymore. So you've got the state of Victoria spending $1 million a day surveying itself when he's probably not even there, and no one else is looking for him. Like that's
a great point.
Right? Like, this is how fucked government spending is.
Which one's Albury Wodonga? It's one's New South Wales, one's Victoria.
Oh no,
he's
ask
probably
Justin.
just in Albury.
Yeah.
And they're like in Wodonga going, where's Desi? He's across the river.
Yeah, totally. But again, like,
but $100 million, and just think about this. Like, would the government spend $100 million
yes,
to find your killer?
Oh no, sorry.
Yeah.
If they had an opportunity to spend $100 million of our money on something that might put money in the pockets of their friends, absolutely they would. But the concept you were talking about before, about maybe why this Mike Bush character is out trying to take a bit of a different tact, is because they're concerned about the level of disengagement from the community and potentially some pushback coming behind that. We all just saw what happened over in Nepal, where the Nepalese essentially overthrew their own government. Now, the next one that I want to keep a close eye on is Vietnam, because we just saw a story that came out this week, because Vietnam is trying to impose digital ID on their citizens, and a lot of the citizens are rejecting it. 86 million people just had their bank accounts shut down because they refused to link it with their digital ID. So you got to think about it this way. That's a lot of people. If a small percentage of those people decides to do something about it, they could overthrow their government too.
Well, not only that, when you do something as significant as banking, they have to find another way.
Yeah.
They have to.
That's right.
It's imperative, right?
Because you can't survive without it.
Yeah. So, I love the fact that this is happening in Vietnam, because it's going to mean more Bitcoin users.
Yeah.
Because Bitcoin fixes that, so you don't need it anymore. Thank you.
Yeah. But it's also, I think it's a good thing to see it as Australians when they haven't tried to impose that system yet. But you just look at what's happening elsewhere in the world. It's exactly the same as COVID, guys. Like, the only reason why Alex and I were ahead of the curve in regards to things during COVID was because we were watching what was happening overseas from countries that were further ahead than we were. And we were saying, hey, they're doing this over there, they're probably going to try and do it here. And then they tried to do it here. And everyone's like, you guys are crazy conspiracy theorists. Well, we said 5 years ago that the COVID passports were a stepping stone to get you towards this digital ID, and that they were going to then use digital ID to impose a social credit system like what's in China. And everyone's like, you guys are crazy tinfoil hat conspiracy theorists. And then Keir Starmer came out 2 weeks ago and said, to fight illegal immigration, you need to have a digital ID, otherwise you won't be able to work.
All the law-abiding citizens have to do this thing to stop the people that are not law-abiding citizens.
That we're not stopping or deporting anyway.
But I think you made the point, which is so hilarious, is like, the government will just give these guys the digital ID.
Correct.
Because they're giving them hotels.
That's right. They'll give them the digital ID, and then they'll let them vote for the Labor government, which is what Labor's trying to do over here as well. It's the same playbook, guys. And this just gets me back to the original point, which is this. These leftist governments are so dangerous because they are willing to lie to get power, and then they move to totalitarian authoritarianism to keep it. Like, go back to before Albanese got elected. What were Albanese's key promises heading into his first election as PM?
$236 off your power bill.
$275, Alex. Don't shortchange him. He promised $275.
That's including GST.
What has your power bill done?
Up,
drastically through the roof. Okay, what was one of the other key promises? There was one other key one.
More transparency.
More transparent government. He was extremely critical of the lack of transparency in the Scott Morrison government. Now, just to give you a reminder, ScoMo gave himself 5 secret ministries during his government, but again, figures came out 2 weeks ago to show that this Labor government is the second least transparent government in Australian government history. They're worse than ScoMo was. So, again, it just shows you, like, look at the track record. They lied to you, they said the nice things, so you would vote for them and give them power. And then when they got the power, what have they done since then? They've jacked your energy bills through the roof. They don't give you any of the documents to show you what the fuck is going on and how they're governing your country. They treat you with contempt for even asking in the first place. Yeah. They tried to they spent $500 million on the voice referendum, which was to divide our nation by race, and they still keep banging on about it now, even though the majority of the country voted no. Like,
didn't Victoria just get one through the lower house?
Yeah, they're doing their own treaty in Victoria, and the opposition leader has come out and said that they will repeal it. But again, like, it is this leftist playbook of say whatever you need to win, and then do whatever you want afterwards, but do anything you can to retain power. Like, call people racist for pointing out the fact that they're literally the Labor government in New South Wales is literally building social housing projects in Liberal-held seats and importing immigrants in to live there. Like, to try to stack branches for themselves. Even look at what Albo announced 2 weeks ago with, he wants to increase the amount of MPs in Parliament. And the seats that he has proposed to add extra MPs to are Labor-held seats. So instead of having one MP from Labor, they'll have 2 from the same area. Like, it is pure power game politics.
And look, if you had the opportunity to stack the deck, you stack the deck.
But you don't if you're a good person. Put it this way. If Trump did any of this shit, the left would be going wild over it.
Yeah.
Right?
We should talk about some of the stuff that Trump's done, because I want to know how. So obviously there's a ceasefire deal done in Israel, Gaza.
Yep.
How many times was it pushed to your algorithm to show lefties still hating the deal?
Heaps. Can we refresh this so my camera might start working again? Because I'm feeling inadequate.
Yeah. What do you do? Just
I'll just stop recording. I'll come back. Okay, so we're back. So I want to talk about the Trump thing, because one of the things that we mentioned right at the beginning of this year, in January, was you had 2 things that happened right at the same time, which were going to let people see for themselves the differences in political philosophies in real time. And that was, Trump was inaugurated in January as president, but there was also the California wildfires. And we said at the time, people are going to see a massive difference between what Trump's administration was going to achieve compared to what the Californian government was going to achieve in regards to the rebuilding of California.
Right. Yeah.
Because we talk about it all the time. One of the problems with leftism is it's all about control, and control oftentimes comes from laws and bureaucrats and bureaucracy. And I was listening to a podcast this week with Adam Carolla on it. You know who Adam Carolla is, don't you? Right. A lot of you will know who he is as well. And he was talking about this because he's been a lifetime California resident. And he knew, and because he's got a background in building as well, he knows a lot about what needs to be done, permits need to be issued, and all of that sort of thing. And what he was saying was that we're 10 months into this thing now, and for the majority of houses that were burnt down, building hasn't even commenced yet.
Yeah.
A lot of people that lived there and have lived in California for their entire lives have left because they can't even get a permit to start rebuilding their houses, let alone the absolutely out of this world cost, let alone, like he was talking about the foundations and how far into the ground they need to drill them because they're ocean front, and how the regulations have changed over time. And he was saying that he knows these people who their house didn't burn down, it is waterfront, it didn't move at all, it's totally fine, and it's been there for 50-something years, which means it was not subject to these new regulations, but they don't need to rebuild their house at all. But for you to rebuild your house, you actually need to pour cement like twice the distance into the ground.
Because the regulations have changed.
Because the regulations have changed, right? He's talking about, like, I think it's 7 stories deep. They have to pour concrete to do these foundations now, because these stupid regulations. So in other words, California burnt down a one of the richest parts of the country. The richest part.
One of the richest places on Earth.
That's right. I think it's like 3rd in the global economy or whatever.
Yeah.
The richest part of the country burnt down 10 months ago, and the richest people in the country can't even rebuild their houses yet. Now go to what Trump has achieved in the last 10 months. And just to throw the caveat out there, we don't agree with everything that he's done, but I agree with a lot of it. And at the very least, you can't say that he hasn't done anything, because he's gotten heaps done. So, Israel, Gaza, clearly something. There goes the camera. As soon as I said Israel, the camera went.
Yeah.
I'm probably about to be assassinated live on the show. They just don't.
Well, it's not live because no one's going to see it.
They'll hear the audio, but they'll just be able to say that this is AI generated afterwards, like we're talking about. So Israel, Gaza, that was a conflict that began under the Biden administration and did not get any better. And it is now, at least there is a ceasefire that has been signed. But the biggest achievement behind this that no one is talking about, he got the other Arab nations involved. So this is not America coming in and sitting there like the big brother between Israel and Palestine and saying, sort this out or else. This is America literally partnering with Arab nations from that region and saying to them, hey, if you, like, this is your region. If you want a lasting peace, you guys need to be involved in this as well and take ownership over it. And at the same time, I think in total, the total amount of conflicts that Trump has at least taken credit for ending this year is 8.
7.
Okay, well, I think Israel Palestine was the 8th, right?
Yeah, might be, yeah.
So it's 7 prior to that. So it's 8 wars that have stopped.
Let's see if my camera goes if I say the word Israel. No, I just did that.
Classic.
Yeah.
So he has stopped 8 wars. You look at so like I said before about Albanese, what did Albanese promise before he was elected, and what has he done since? Well, what did Trump promise before he was elected, and what has he done since? He promised to close the border. What's he done? It's done. It was done on almost day 1.
Yeah.
Right? And they're doing their deportations. And the thing too that, like, I find it funny because a lot of people in Australia think that, like, what Trump is doing at the deportations is like barbaric and all this sort of shit. We did the exact same thing here 15 years ago. It was to stop the boats. We made it extremely publicly known because the reality is, like, It sounds nice to take all these refugees in and give them a place to live and take care of them. That sounds really, really nice. But the reality is, when you show the world that that is an opportunity, you are going to get more and more people coming here in these dangerous means who will die along the way. And unfortunately, if you show the world like what Tom Homan and ICE is doing now, that, hey, if you do the wrong thing to come into this country, we're just going to find you and we're going to drag you out of here and get rid of you. And that will be a massive black mark next to your name. You won't be able to come back to this country legally because you're already a felon. It discourages from people from paying a criminal their life savings just to try to take the chance to do it. You'll do it in the right way.
You've created a market for it. That's the
Correct.
problem. There was a market. There was a financial benefit. So we've seen the English Channel, GBN News has been following it really, really closely, and they've been going over to France and interviewing the people that are getting on boats to come over.
Yep.
They pay $2,000.
That's
it's
right.
like $2,000 to a and one of these traffickers literally just gets a boat. It's a rubber boat. They put probably 10 people on it, and they send them into the water, knowing they're going to get picked up by the Navy.
Yeah.
And they've made $100,000.
Yeah.
Like it's just the easiest money in the world. But if the boats, if the Navy was picking you up and dropping you back in Calais, well then they wouldn't pay to, like, the people wouldn't pay to go over.
That's
there's
right.
no marketplace
because there's no false
you're not getting
hope.
what you want.
That's right.
Yeah.
And again, so Trump promised that he would do that. Now, the only thing that you can really criticize Trump for promising was saying that he would end all of these conflicts, including Russia-Ukraine, on day one, and clearly hasn't ended Russia-Ukraine. But he's done a really good job. And things like the Abraham Accords is something that he'll never be given enough credit for, or he probably will in 50 years' time, when you literally have an American president who, for the first time ever, has made Arab nations who are at war with each other sign peace agreements with each other. Like, that makes the world a better place. So, from Trump's side, you've got ending foreign conflicts, you've got securing the border, you've got, look...
No tax on tips.
Yeah, well, the economy is going extremely well too, right? Like, they're actually, with his tariff war, the tariffs are bringing in extra revenue, which is going towards paying down debt. Like, there's a lot of positives there. And I'm not trying to blow smoke up his ass. What I'm trying to say to you is facts matter and track records matter.
Mm.
And I understand why Australians in particular were so emboldened to vote out Scott Morrison's government because of the way that they govern the country. And I agree with you. They should not be running the country anymore. So I totally understood the protest vote of getting rid of ScoMo and giving Albo a chance. And we even said it at the time. We were like, we hope this works out as well as everyone believes it will. We just don't see it happening. Unfortunately, Albo now has the track record to show that what he says is not what he does. You cannot trust him to run a country in your best interest, because he's already not done it for 1.5. Well, yeah, it's 1.5 terms now. Mm. So his track record shows failure. At the very least, it's failure. At the very worst, it's corruption. Whereas Trump's track record shows, like, from when he won in 2016 to 2020. America was kicking goals all over the world, even regardless of all the Russia hoax stuff that he was dealing with at the time and the 2 impeachments for bullshit. The only thing that derailed America was when COVID kicked off. Right? Yeah. And now America is going back to... And the thing is, too, you have to remember, America does have an extremely important role to play in the world. Like, we joke about Team America being world police. It's the fact. Like, they are the most successful Western country in history. And I believe that the majority of that comes down to having freedom of speech. Like, that's the number one virtue.
Yep. And capitalism.
Yep. Capitalism and freedom of speech. So we need them to be successful to show every other nation in the world this is the way you're supposed to do it. Not doing it like we're trying to do it over here or in the UK, where it's these leftist governments who lied to you to take power, and now they're trying to take all of your rights away from you. That's not the right way to go. I always find it interesting when, like, people talk about Trump and they're like, oh, he's authoritarian. And it's like, okay, cool. There is no one on the planet who is more heavily criticized online every single day than Donald Trump.
There was no one who received more Orwellian authoritarianism than him as an individual.
Correct.
No one has blocked. He's had bank accounts, business dealings, his social media. He was tried. Like, they tried to erase him.
He was the sitting president of the United States and they kicked him off the internet.
Yeah.
Like, think about that. So, but again, and like, you can, cite the Jimmy Kimmel thing. That wasn't Trump. That was his FCC commissioner, which said something fucking stupid he never should have said. Like, Trump can say, I don't want Jimmy on TV because I don't like the guy. That's just an opinion. That's not him saying, kick him off television. But the reality is, all of the stuff that the left claimed Trump would do was done by the left during the Biden administration. It was the Biden administration that was doing all the online censorship. It was the Biden administration that was weaponizing the Department of Justice to take out their political enemies. It was the Biden administration who circumvented democracy by installing Kamala Harris as the presidential candidate instead of letting the registered Democrats vote on who their candidate was supposed to be. Like, again, classic leftist playbook. Accuse the enemy of doing that which you are doing. Like, that's exactly what happened. So again, if you are someone who leans left, that's totally fine. I have no dramas with people who lean left on the majority of subjects, because I lean left on a whole bunch of things. But what I will not accept is your inability to assess the track records that have been put in front of you. And, like, if you honestly believe that Albanese is doing a good job right now, you must have rocks in your head. You absolutely must. Or you have a fundamental misunderstanding of how the economy works and how a country is supposed to be governed. If you, on the same token, if you're telling me that Trump is doing a bad job while he's settling global conflicts and doing policies which put his own people first, you have a fundamental misunderstanding of what government is supposed to do.
Ask yourself this. What could Donald Trump do to make you feel different about him?
Yeah. And I think for a lot of people, it would be nothing. There is nothing he could do. He could cure cancer tomorrow and they would still protest about it. And you saw that. There was people protesting the ceasefire. There was pro-Palestinian protesters protesting against the ceasefire because it was Donald Trump that organized it. Like, it just goes to show you there is this hunger for unearned social clout which comes from having a perceived moral high ground that you've created for yourself. And too many people are just not willing to let that go.
And on that note,
let's leave it there. Thanks very much for joining us, guys, and hopefully you'll be able to see my face next week.
see ya.
No promises. See you later.